This is a 1962 Plymouth Valiant with a 225 in it that's been sitting for about 4 to 5 years. I actually got this car for free from a very kind woman who said she just wanted to get it back on the road. So I'm going to take you through all the steps that I got to get this thing back up and running. That's fun. Got all of that split, and then this is the fun stuff right back there. But it's all good. It's all still here, all still complete. And then this is the interior. Already got all the goodies inside right here. Super straight, actually. Got a little bit of a rip back there. Nothing crazy. Back seat still looks really good. Now this kind of sucks. That's just not attached anymore. But it's all good. Found the radio in the trunk. It's pretty cool. It's right back up in there. Shouldn't be too bad. Now this has no pressure. Brakes don't really have any pressure either. We got a little bit, actually. Okay, that's gonna work with. It's not too bad. And then this, not even gonna bother pressing that. At least we're in neutral. First, we're gonna go off and check this oil real quick, and that is black and dripping right off. That's gas. That tastes like gas. Okay, good stuff. What we got in here? And nothing. Okay, sweet. I would assume so, because that is clipped, and those go right there. One of the most important things to do is to make sure that this gas is not old, because I don't want to start filtering in old gas into the carburetor and stuff like that. So pretty quick and easy smell test. It smells a little old, but still pretty fresh. You can usually tell, the smell of bad gas pretty quick. It's kind of got like that sweet, kind of gross smell to it. Now fresh gas will just smell just like fresh gas. You can kind of smell when it's on the turning point if you're around it by a decent bit. But old gas is kind of smells varnishy. Kind of smells like not wood paint, but like vinyl paint, stuff like that. It gets kind of gross. It basically turns into a sugar. But this tank actually still smells pretty good. So I'm just going to kind of gamble with it. See what it does. So first thing we're going to change out is going to be this fuel filter right here. It goes into the hard line, and these lines are all sorts of old and nasty. This one doesn't even hang on there. So we're going to take it off this middle hard line right here, which is coming in from the fuel pump down there. Don't know if that fuel pump works yet, but we're just going to play it off right now just to see what it does. We'll get into that, and then we're going to get into this coil. Down here, I ordered a valve cover gasket, which we'll do tomorrow. Check the valve tray and everything like that, make sure that's good. This carburetor still had gas in it when it got dropped off yesterday, so I'm just going to naturally assume it's still working. At least it's getting in there somehow. And we're also going to change out the oil. The filter is down there. Everything that's essential, of course, is smushed right up in here. And then we'll basically see if we need to get cap, button, maybe points, throw those in there. But right now, we're just going to cap this off, make sure we can get some coolant up in there, just to make sure we can cool everything down, just to see if we can even get started. These are some of the parts that I just bought, just day one stuff. Got a battery because we don't have one, of course. Coil, oil filter, fuel filter, oil, stuff like that. Around about 250 bucks. The main chunk of that was this battery, which was kind of expensive. But if you had a battery or something just laying around, all this stuff would have cost maybe about 100 bucks just to even try to get it going. So first thing we're gonna do, just to get them out of the way because they're in mine, is get rid of these heater core hoses right there. 2 easy clamps, just need a flathead for it, just to get them off the bar. But also it looks like it's rusting really bad. So hopefully I don't have to put a new water pump on here because they're a huge pain. But it's good enough garage, it's not perfect garage, right? So this is just to get it started and just make sure everything's cooling off right. Yeah, all right, I'm gonna have to yank that off of there. And those barbs are super rusted, which is not looking good for this pump. But let's go ahead and rip them out. Didn't have a way to cap that off, so what we did is basically just ran the line into itself. So it won't be a problem for right now. I mean, there's a big old kink in it, but what are you gonna do? I don't need heat, right? Now what we're going to do is take off this coil, which is right down here. Coil consists of 2 main little bolts right there. Well, they're nuts, I guess. You got this one on the left and this one on the right. One is a positive, one is the negative, and then it has the ground wire right there on the top. Now to get that off, mine is a 3/8, just a small little 3/8 right there. Make sure you're taking stock of the wires on what goes where. So I believe for my positive right there, I have a green, red, and a black wire. And then for my negative, it's just this black wire down there. Really easy to take out and change, kind of hard to see here with the lighting and everything, but it is these down right there, okay? So that's the positive right there. That's the negative. You literally just slide this thing out, pop the new one in, and the new one should have new hardware as well. They run about 30 bucks. I just like to preemptively change them out because I've had so many problems with them before. It's just easier to change them out before you get anything going. Now, these coils can be a little bit of a pain. I like to put a lot of extensions on mine because I like as much clearance as possible. But as soon as you get them going, super easy to get them out. Just make sure you're taking heed of where those wires go because you don't want to mix them up again because that'll cause you problems when you don't think it's starting. You're going to think it's an ignition problem. You're going to start ripping out a bunch of wires that you don't need to. So just make sure you take a quick picture of it or a video or whatnot, just so you know exactly where everything goes and where it's supposed to be getting put back into place. And you see, there we go. I mean, it's kind of rusted, but you know, it's not too much to keep them in place. So to fully take off the coil, there's a big metal loop that goes around it, and it's held in by this bolt. Now that bolt is normally found towards the bottom left-hand side of it. Let me see if I can get you all in there real quick. It's found right under there. So you can see it. Well, I've already removed it, but you can normally see it towards the backhand left side. That's normally where it is. That's exactly where I took it out. And then you can pull this whole thing out in one big sleeve. It should literally just come straight out. This one's fighting me a little bit, but you know, you get the general point. It's supposed to just slip right out. This one's all caked up in oil and stuff like that, but it's only held in by this little bit right there. It's a 1/2 inch. I had to use on this one a little extension with my little drive and stuff like that, and then it should slide right out. So after you get it out, that's what she's gonna look like. On the left side for mine was the positive, on the right side was the negative. And just look at how crusty that thing is. There's basically oil that sits in here too, and sometimes that just doesn't want to get done right anymore. So the top looks decent down the middle, so it's probably doing an okay job, but you know, best to just go ahead and replace it for 30 bucks. Another thing to keep in mind with the coil is you want all those contacts to be really fresh and clean because you want to be having the best connection that you possibly can between that positive and negative from the distributor, okay? Now, after I put that back in there, reattach that bolt, should be good to go down there. All we got to do is just reattach this ground wire up there, and I had to take the spark plug wire out. Also, cool thing about these spark plugs wires for the 62, look at that. They're like little nipples and stuff like that. So like these big saucers right there, really neat. It makes it to where a bunch of crud and stuff doesn't get inside of your spark plug tube. Never seen that before. I've also never like worked on a 225 before, but I thought it was a really neat thing. Next thing we got up is this fuel filter right here, just because it's going to be super quick and easy. Super straightforward. Basically what I want to do is disconnect these neoprene lines from these hard lines down here. This is obviously a very old fuel filter, so we got a brand new chrome one to put on there, and that one I have no idea when that's from, so that one's probably going to be next. But first and foremost, we're going to make sure that it's guarded from that pump, because I don't know what's inside of that pump, into that carburetor. It was like $10. So basically what we're going to do is get a needle nose or just a big old pair of grippers. Grip right there, pull this whole thing off, put the new ones in there, and make sure there's enough slack in there, because you don't want stuff like this, because it will break over time, and then you can just pull it straight out like that. I didn't even do this yet. That wasn't even me. So I don't know if somebody tried to take this off beforehand or that just slipped off over time, but you know, who knows. Good news is, when I just pulled this off, it sprayed a ridiculous amount of gas all over me. So I'm assuming this fuel pump is working. The gas smells moderately fresh. It's not brand new, that's for sure, but it's definitely not too old. So we shouldn't be having to worry about valve stems and stuff like that by running this thing and those getting gummed up. But take a look at this neoprene hose. See that? That is gross. That is all sorts of nasty. Hopefully there's none of those bits or anything like that inside of this carburetor. But it's a 1-barrel, so probably rebuild this thing with one hand. I mean, it's like 2 things that make it work. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and grab this new fuel filter, slap this in there, and then I'll be on to the next thing. Oh, in my personal opinion, I like to measure once and cut twice. So I like to measure this all the way down. I like to use these hard lines still. I don't really like to get rid of these. I know a lot of people debate on, you know, if it boils the gas or not and stuff like that. These hard lines are kind of a pain to try to get in the right form, and it's already here and it's all original. So I might as well keep it. You know, those guys went to college. They knew what they were doing. So what you're going to do with this fuel filter, pretty straightforward. Put the N on the inside. So from from the tank goes through the fuel pump comes through this hard line, goes in through right here, and then it's going to come out into your carburetor. It's going to be kind of sitting right here. I like to leave a little bit extra fuel line, so you leave a little bit extra here and there, and there's so much space in between these two things, you just kind of have it hanging there. I don't normally like to have my fuel filters and stuff next to the exhaust like this, because it will start to boil the gas a little bit inside of here, especially because it's a chrome container. But as opposed to the glass ones are super prone to leak. I don't like them. They're nice to use when you know your tank is dirty and you need to see how many particulates are moving around in that tank. I personally hate cleaning out gas tanks, so I try to put as many of these in there as possible. I'm gonna try to filter everything out, and I'd rather change these out than drop a tank, in all honesty. So but yeah, let's go ahead and slap this in there. I also use these same clips again, so I like to use these ones. They're super easy to just snap on and off. Yeah, I just kind of use whatever clamps I have handy, but pretty easy to put back on there. Okay, so now we got this whole fuel filter situation all nice and snug. It was kind of hard to get these lines on there, so I sprayed a little bit of PB Blaster on it on the inside of the tube. Makes it slip in the nipple really good. Now what we're going to do is take a look into this brake master cylinder and see if there's any fluid up in there. This is a 7/16 up here. Going to take that off. I'm assuming this is going to be really nasty and gross, so I'm going to show you guys a little tip on how to get all that nasty brake fluid and stuff out of that master cylinder. So we got that all cracked up and open. Now, unfortunately, I did not show it, but this thing was empty, like stark empty, which I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. And look down in there, that thing looks pristine, actually, which is very surprising. Went off and pressed on the pedal a couple times. I was going to let it gravity bleed just a little bit, just make sure all the air is out of there. It was just bubbling up a little bit out of that master cylinder, and none of the fluid got lost. Pressed on it a couple more times, nothing bubbled up over. So I guess for right now it's good enough to rock. I just want to make sure that in case this thing's accidentally stuck in gear, that I can get in there and actually stop it instead of it, you know, running me over. So we'll see. Good start. But that bolt was this bolt was stuck in there, absolutely stuck in the top. And actually, the cool thing about this Valiant is, look at this lid. This lid actually has that O-ring that's all the way around it, and that seal actually still looks really good. Now, it's eaten up around the edges a little bit, and I know you're supposed to let these master cylinders kind of get a little bit rusty, but I think for right now, we'll just rock with it. It's not perfect, but you know, it's good enough to have brakes for right now, so we'll see. I was talking about, unfortunately, that master cylinder was completely empty, so I couldn't really show it. So imagine this is the master cylinder right here. Just gets like some cleaning supply, like the spray bottle and stuff that you got right there. Make sure it's obviously set to on, and then you just kind of build up some pressure right there. Sprays all of that nasty brake fluid right out of that master cylinder. This is kind of getting stuck, but you get the general gist of it. I've got a valve cover gasket coming in tomorrow at O'Reilly's. Going to show you guys how to take it off real quick. I'm thinking about maybe stripping this down, maybe painting it again, Firehouse Red. I don't know. We'll see. But right here, it's a 7/16 that takes it. You got one bolt right there, 2, 3, 4. Now down here, you got these little pins as well that hold up all these electrical brackets. All you do is just push and pull on. Now make sure you're watching out for these because they are brittle sometimes, especially with their age, and they will crack off, okay? So just make sure you're careful with that. I haven't pulled this off yet. I'm pretty sure there's a PCV valve that's in here. This one looks like it's metal for some reason. I don't know where that's even going to, or if that's supposed to have anything attached. I've never seen one that's metal like that before. News to me, but we'll take a peek at it. But yeah, that's how you're gonna basically pull this whole thing off. We're gonna take a look at the valve train, put some oil in the top part of this engine too, just to make sure that we're getting lubricant from the top as well as the bottom whenever we do change out that oil, which I have not done yet. But yeah, that's how we're gonna take off that valve cover, and I'll show you what it looks like when we take it off, and we'll take a look at this valve train, make sure everything's not rusted and nasty from condensation. Oh, I had never seen something like this before. This is like a cap. Upon further investigation of me trying to get this valve cover out, that thing did not want to budge at all. So I followed this pipe all the way down and was like, where is this leading? It looks like it's just going down into the abyss. Now, if you see all the way down there, there is a little bolt right there, if that'll focus correctly. So there's a bolt right there that is a 5/8. Now that 5/8 is what hold this whole thing into place, and then as soon as you loosen that, this thing will just pop straight out, and look at that. So it's got that little flange piece at the bottom, slips right over the bolt, and it should be good to go. But pretty easy to take out once you know exactly what you're looking for. And this stuff is dirty and nasty, so make sure you're at least wearing gloves. Sweet. So we just took that last bolt out back here, and let's see what we got underneath this valve cover. I have no idea what horrors this may hold. Let's check it out together. Let's see. Okay. Okay, it's not too bad, all things considered. This gasket is all sorts of messed up back there. Okay, it's got a good cork gasket on there. Looks like somebody already changed this gasket out at some point. So that's good news. Yeah, let's take a look at all these galleys. Okay, this looks dry. Looks really, really, really dry. Smells pretty good. Don't see any oil down here in these passageways though. I don't see anything down there. Nothing. But, oh, we got a little bit. Okay. It's not bad, I guess, all things considered. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Maybe we'll paint this thing up. See what it'll look like when it's brand new. So now what we're gonna do is change that oil and everything that's down there with that filter. Got this shakily put up. So we're gonna try to do this real quick. Get this out of the way. If you need a refresher on how to do the oil, it's on the back of the block. I forgot what size this bolt is. Take it out of there, and then this oil filter is right down nestled up in there. Gonna unscrew that, get all that stuff down. We've got our gorgeous drain pan right there. I think it's a planter box or something, but it'll be good enough just to collect the most of that oil here. And I actually use this neat thing. Usually I just use the oil filter wrenches that you can just twist by hand. This thing was great though. Basically you have a 3/8 drive on the back, opens it up, and then whenever it tightens it just cinches all the way around there, rips this thing right off. And this thing is old as hell. I don't know how old, but it's a gold Napa filter. Looks like somebody's trying to take care of it, but it's all surface rust on the outside. The inside looks decent. But that seal is even super crusty and nasty right there. But we're about to slap the new one on there. It's this tube all the way down here is what it fills up on. I didn't think that extension tube was going to be that long. But there it is. Going to clean that off because now I actually got a bunch of dust and dirt all up in it. So I'm gonna get some parts cleaner on that, which look at that, good as new. Gonna let that parts cleaner and stuff dry out. Don't want that mixing with the oil. And then I'm gonna take off this valve cover right here, dump the oil down in the top part of those galleys, let that fill up a little bit, and then we're gonna fill it up mainly through there. So we're gonna make sure that everything is nice, well and evenly coated. Then we'll put back on the valve cover, and then I think I'm gonna put in the spark plugs next, and we should be good to go to try to crank her up. Okay, last thing we got the valve cover all back in place and stuff like that. Last thing before we crank her on over is I'm just going to pop out all these spark plugs and take a look. These ones are going to be 13/16s. I don't have the fancy one that has a little boot on the inside. And then I got these from O'Reilly's. These are Motorcraft ones though, so I'm definitely going to check the gap on these to make sure that's correct. But that's what this should look like. Got these for like $2 a piece, $12 total. Shouldn't be too bad. The location on these is on the side of the block. So just take off all of these corresponding ones on the side right here. All these wires right there. I'm just gonna take them out one at a time because I don't feel like counting off which ones and getting my firing order mixed up. So we're just gonna pop these out. I already popped off this one because it was in my way. So we're gonna start with this one and then work our way all the way down and then fire up. Further investigation, this one that I just pulled out, which I believe is the number 2 spark plug, is super sooty, but it still smells like gas, which is good. It means at least the gas is getting there. Let's just hope that we have spark. And upon further investigation, the gap on these Motorcraft ones actually don't match these, which is fine. It's just I don't have the $1 gapping tool right now, so we're just going to send it with these old spark plugs that are in there and just hope for the best. It won't be the end of the world. It's also not perfect garage. Good enough garage. So we're gonna see what this does. Hopefully start. You're finally ready to rock. Got the battery in place, just got to put those on there. And a quick thing to make sure you do before you start anything, especially if it's been sitting this long, make sure you check all your fluids again. I almost completely forgot that this had nothing in it, and I only half filled the oil, and then the brake fluid and stuff's already been taken care of, but this thing's on all flat, so it's not going anywhere unless that push button's still in drive. Hopefully not. So we're going to connect this up, put some starter fluid up in right there, and we're going to have a whack at it, boy. So we're just going to give it a little bit of the... Oh, hell yeah, free spider web. Cool. Well, that looks Okay, that looks properly filled. Let's go have a whack. So good news, got the key to turn, and then the wipers came on for exactly 1 second. Now we have nothing. So that's fun. Don't know what's up with that. I guess I'm gonna make sure that these terminals are on there correctly. All right. Okay, so got a little bit more life in it for a second. It was these battery terminals right here. It's these wires. Gonna have to change these out. I had to play around with them a little bit, just not sending the right voltage. But finally got the wipers to stay on for 2 seconds. Don't know how to turn them off. That just kind of sucked. But let's see if we can try to crank this thing up. And what we can do, we're gonna put some more starter fluid back up in here and kind of dump it down there a little bit. See if we can get some magic. Got a little bit of life. Looks like we need a little bit more gas in there. I don't know if this fuel pump's working, but hey, it's a good start. Everything in my power not to kill this brand new battery. I don't think this is getting any gas up in there. So I don't know if it's a fuel pump issue, maybe a fuel pump, or this thing might just be straight up out of gas. I might just want to go ahead and take the lines off of this mechanical fuel pump and then just run it into like a little improvised gas tank, see if that thing will work. But yeah, pretty good for right now. We're testing off camera on this fuel pump. Turns out it is not pulling any fuel back from the tank. Pulled off that line, that inlet line, this neoprene right here, to make a makeshift gas tank, just to see if we can get a little bit of gas inside of that carb. Now I ended up getting a new fuel pump. It's only about like 26 bucks, so figure why not go ahead and change it. This one just seems kind of old, and it's also not pumping any gas in there. As soon as I took off this line right here, this thing was dry. It was really dry, and it looks like it has a little bit of rust on the inside of that line, so hopefully that tank isn't dirty and nasty. But we're just trying to get it to idle for a decent bit, just to see if I need to set this timing or anything like that. That new coil did wonders on this thing, so I'm going to show you guys how to take off this fuel pump. It's really easy. There's only 2 lines into it. It's just this neoprene one, which just needs a flathead to take off, and then you also have a hard line right over here. I'll show you that. It's right down there. So you have the neoprene hose right here, just a flathead. Then you got the hard line right there. I'm assuming it's going to be either a 1/2 inch or 7/16 to take off. Then you have 2 bolts that just sit in the back of this block. And this tongue that has to sit underneath that roller cam, super small. It's only about like 2 inches, 2 to 3 inches. So it should literally just slide right into place. And then obviously, put the gasket back on that back end of that fuel pump, and it should be good to go. And this is a kind of an important step too, because you're going to be chasing your tail with gas. You're going to keep dumping gas on that carb, and it'll start catching and catching and catching, but it won't be able to refill itself. So you're basically just going to be dumping the gas that's in your bowl straight into that intake, and it's just going to keep using up that gas. And if it has no way to replenish itself, it's just basically going to sit there and run for a couple seconds, which is kind of what we've got. But the good news is we do have spark though, which is great. So I'm just going to kind of keep these old spark plugs in there. I don't really feel like doing spark plugs right now. So let's go ahead and get this fuel pump in there and then see if we can get it started for a little bit longer than a couple seconds. I'm going to make another improvised gas tank, except for this time with a Dr. Pepper bottle, because my gas can is a little bit too big, and this hose, as long as it is not actually getting as much gas as I would like it to suck on. So let's go ahead and change this out, and then I'll test it and then see what it does. I got these lines off for the fuel pump, and just look at that. All that stuff is just super dry right there. Real big indicator to just know that this thing has been out. It should at least be a little bit wet, or at least pressurized from how much that we've been trying to start this thing. Not even a dribble out of there. So better yank this thing out, and hopefully this will give it a little bit more life to keep it up just a little bit longer. Also, that's another thing I was thinking about while I was wrenching on this fuel pump. If you ever want to work on cars yourself, never get discouraged with this stuff. The barrier to entry for this can be kind of expensive sometimes with just getting the car and everything else, but the only way you can learn how to do 90% of this stuff is just by trying it. I never had any sites or anything like that to go look up on. I learned half my stuff from YouTube myself, But even then, it's just taking stuff apart and seeing how it works and putting it in there. Only way to figure out half of this stuff is by just trying it. So, you know, I mean, just get something like this, and then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least just try it, you know. It doesn't hurt to ever mess up your own stuff. You'll always learn something even if you do mess it up. And if it works, you know, you can do it. I mean, there's 100 ways to fix a lot of this stuff. Sometimes it's not the right way in other people's eyes, but, you know, as long as it gets the job done, it's really not stupid now, is it? But, yeah, let's go ahead and crack out this fuel pump and smack in this new one right here, and then see what she does. Oh, finally got that pump out. Now those two bolts in the back right there, they're 9/16, super big pain. And now I got to get all that gasket out from underneath there, which is going to be super cruddy and stuck on. I'm pretty sure this is the original fuel pump, and just see how small that tang is right there. It's going to be pretty easy to reinstall, except for those bolts. Also got to get all of that gasket off. A lot of that did not come with it, unfortunately, when I pulled it off, so about half of it's still attached to the block. But let's go ahead and rip that out and then put the new one in. So we've got everything all installed with our fresh new OEM gas tank, sponsored by DP right there. So we're gonna give this thing a crank and see if we'll actually get some gas up in that carb. That was significantly better. It's also dumping gas out of that carburetor. Oh wow, okay. Did not notice that. That's not good. Finally get this carburetor off. Got the rebuild kit and everything like that. Just popped everything out. Pretty simple to take off. Just this choke. Golly, everything's falling. We got a choke linkage right here. This you actually have to pull out, and hopefully it'll go back in. That's for the firewall gas pedal thingy. So this is all just one big metal rod that goes in the back, right back here. So it just squishes back in there. It's got a screwdriver and just yoinked it out. Now we got to clean up all these gaskets on the bottom right there, make sure that nothing gets in this intake manifold, rebuild that. It should be good to go. Wait, they're breaking this thing down. It looks like somebody's grandma got left in here. Check this out. Ew, icky. Well, this might be a culprit. That's supposed to be see-through. Time to drown this. If you're just not tuning in, what the problem was overflowing these bolts right here because of this accelerator pump. Turns out, whoever tried to do this before did not put a needle in here. There's supposed to be a needle that compresses against the back of these bowls, which tells it how much fuel to float up with. And that is what that needle looks like, that nice little brass bit right there. And that was supposed to be on the inside of right here, and that was not there. The tip of that puts against this bowl, sits in place like that, and then as the gas fills up, floats bowls come up as well, and they drop back down. Now that's supposed to tell this to plunge, but if there's nothing telling this how far to go into, it's just going to always be down, which means it's going to get the max amount of gas. We got all of the finishing touches in place. All we got to do is put these screws back in and slap this thing on and see if she will actually idle. Okay, last thing before we get her started is just putting the hard line back in the carb, and we're going to see if this needle will actually make this thing run for longer than 2 seconds. Reinstall our Dr. Pepper fuel tank. I'm going to go ahead and get this water bottle full and dump it in there, fill up those float bowls, and give her a yank. That a success. That is running for way longer. Check that out. Oh yeah, no leaks, no nothing. So we still got some gas leaking out of the carburetor right there, but for right now we'll take that as a win. We'll rip it apart again, see if it's just some bowl float height or something like that. But yeah, that should be good enough for now. As of right now, we're at about, I think, $400 total on this thing, so that's even a high estimate. But yeah, go out there and get your projects running, because this one certainly just did.